Colored primers aren't just about making paint stick to a miniature. They can be a powerful tool to influence the final color, tone, and overall speed of the painting project. Colored primers mean working smarter, not harder. Today, I cover how to maximize efficiency when using colored primer with a base shade highlight approach to batch painting. Most importantly, I'll share specific tips and tricks for using washes with a colored primer base that'll save a ton of time. Welcome to Trehane Miniatures. For today's demonstration, I'm using the alien drone miniatures from the game Nemesis Retaliation. Choosing the correct primer color for your army or zombie horde can create an instant base coat that'll save time. These particular miniatures are going to be mostly violet, so I'm choosing to prime with ColorForge Imperial Purple. This will be the mid-tone color for the alien skin. Typically, with a base shade highlight approach to batch painting, I would first paint a base coat of all the mid-tone colors. Then I would apply a dark wash for the shadows. And finally, I would add bright highlights. However, since so much of these creatures is purple skin, I can cheat the process by dry brushing highlights in place before proceeding with the rest of the base coat colors. I'll brush on a couple of lighter purple hues. I may add a final highlight color around the upper torso and head after the wash is applied, if I feel it's needed. Choosing a colored primer that matches the primary color of your horde or army is the ultimate speed painting hack. This cuts down on the number of layers that need to be applied to the model. Getting to this shade of purple would take many more coats of paint if painted directly over a black primer. Likewise, the two additional highlight colors that I'm dry brushing over the purple primer are easily visible with just a single coat each. The type of wash you choose ultimately affects how far you can take the highlights before the wash is slathered all over the miniature. If using an oil wash or enamel wash, I can turn the base shade highlight process on its head and complete all of the highlights before using a wash. Even though I'm going to use an oil wash for these aliens, I'm demonstrating this process as if I'm going to use an acrylic wash. This means that for the rest of the colors on the model, I will paint the base layer only and save any highlights for after the wash is applied. Both styles of wash have their advantages and disadvantages. With the standard base shade highlight order of operations, a standard acrylic wash has a speed advantage. This is primarily because acrylic washes dry significantly faster than oil washes. If you prefer to highlight a miniature after the wash goes on, then acrylic washes are a clear winner. Oil washes can be messy and require solvents like white spirits. However, oil washes are much more forgiving to use than acrylic washes. There is almost no risk of excessive staining on the underlying acrylic layer, especially the dreaded coffee staining effect that is so common with acrylic washes. Even after completely drying for a day or more, any excess oil wash can be removed with odorless mineral spirits without harming the acrylic paint below. This is the primary reason that I prefer to use oil washes when batch painting. I don't have to tend to the wash after it's applied to avoid pooling or manage unsightly areas. I find this super important when moving from one model to the next while batch painting. I can put the wash on and then just forget about it. I have all the time in the world to address any issues that I may have with the wash. Because of the forgiving nature of oil washes, I like to adjust the order of operations from base shade highlight to base highlight shade. I will usually paint a model to completion to include the highlights before applying the oil wash. This also means that I'm not waiting for the oil wash to dry before continuing with the project. The oil wash is the final step in this case, so the drying time of the oil wash doesn't affect the overall time I spend painting a horde of aliens. The oil wash that I'm using for this project is incredibly thin. This is the same wash that I made to jumpstart painting minis in a comic book style. Since speed is of the essence when batch painting, I made enough of this oil wash to use it as a dip wash. I'll link to a video here that demonstrates how to make the perfect oil wash every time. I made this wash thin enough that I won't have to remove any of it with mineral spirits later if I don't want to. As it sits on the miniature, it will continue to flow over the raised surfaces and settle in the recesses. This is perfect for speed painting. Of course, if I hadn't made such a large volume of this wash, I would always have the option to apply it with a regular brush. This takes slightly longer, but not prohibitively so. The downside of using an oil wash prior to painting the highlights is that I will have to let this wash dry overnight before continuing with my painting project. If I had chosen to use a dark acrylic wash, I would be able to begin highlighting the model almost immediately. After drying overnight, the model is looking great and is ready for some highlights. You can see that the modest purple highlights are perfectly visible without having to manipulate the wash in any way. Of course, if things do get out of hand with the wash, the situation can be easily remedied with a little odorless mineral spirits and a makeup application sponge. This is a very gentle process that requires no scrubbing at all. The oil wash is removed with a light touch that will not damage the underlying acrylic colors. This step is completely unnecessary in this particular instance, but I want to demonstrate it nonetheless. The highlights would work just fine over the wash without resorting to this step. This step may be more necessary if I had fully highlighted the miniature before applying the wash. But even in that case, I would limit the removal step to only the most upward-facing features with the brightest highlights. Keep in mind that if I had used an acrylic wash, any maintenance or manipulation of the wash would have to be done while the wash is still wet. Once an acrylic wash dries, I am shit out of luck. Unless I enjoy repainting miniatures, which I don't. The final step when batch painting miniatures in this way is to highlight the miniature. I do this quite simply by taking the base layer color and adding a bright off-white color to it. My preferred highlight color, 9 times out of 10, is ice yellow. I prefer ice yellow for highlights because it doesn't desaturate the midtone color as much as pure white does. As I mentioned before, I'm demonstrating this order of operations because it works for both acrylic washes and oil washes. In fact, I feel that saving the highlights for last is necessary when using acrylic washes for speed painting. When using an oil wash, I often highlight first and then save the wash for the last step. This allows me to complete the project in a single day since I don't have to wait overnight for the oil wash to dry before highlighting. Base shade highlight speed painting is my favorite approach to batch painting. It's fast and effective, and it looks as good as I'm willing to make it look. Base shade highlighting is very flexible in that way. I can easily throw down some bright base layers and follow them up with a quick wash and call it good. This sort of thing is perfect for hordes of zombies or other minions. At the other extreme, I can selectively use colored washes to shade the miniature in a way that looks more natural for each color on the miniature. Then I can spend more time highlighting with precise color placement for a hero character quality finish. What I'm employing here today is somewhere in between these two extremes. I'm using a very fast wash step along with some moderate highlighting. I feel that this is the perfect look for these second-tier enemy characters. Since my painting style is ever evolving, I may try some more extreme time-saving measures for the adult aliens from this game. There are a lot more of those minis. So what are some things that you've done to shave time off the painting process? I am particularly interested in hearing any tips you have for batch painting. I'd like to thank my amazing channel members for supporting videos like this. If you'd like to support me by becoming a channel member, you can do so using the link below. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of shortcutters.